Last time on Casino Royale with cheese.
My dad, on occasion, would reference Zorro the Gay Blade, which came out in like 1981, and I'd never seen it. I don't know anything about it.
It was called the Gay Blade?
Yeah, Zorro the Gay Blade. I guess he was gay in it? But I have no idea.
We can't fight General Santana right now.
Right, Santa Ana.
Oh, yeah.
You're thinking
Santana.
Carlos Santana.
Yeah. Santa Ana. We can't fight Santa Ana right now.
¿Cómo va?
And then, what are we watching this next week?
Do you want to know?
Yeah.
We've been waiting so long. You want to take a guess?
I have no idea.
Saving Private Ryan.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh. I thought that was coming up later still.
Nah. We had talked about doing like a military movie month whenever Saving Private Ryan came out. And then I actually looked up the numbers, and it's not like a calendar month, but...
It's 4 weeks.
Yeah, 4 weeks exactly. So we wound up deciding to do that. So we're going to be, for the next 4 weeks, starting with Saving Private Ryan, next week going to be doing a military-themed movie.
And now, the conclusion.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
They're shooting at us!
We'll shoot back! Best job ever.
Best job ever!
I thank God for every fucking day that he gives me in the Corps.
When was the last time you felt good about anything?
By God, I actually pity those poor bastards we're going up against. By God, I do.
The thing that haunts me are all the guys that I couldn't save.
You can't handle the truth.
We into killing Nazi business. And cousin, businesses are booming.
What is your major malfunction, numbnuts? Maybe I should go left, sir.
Maybe you should shut up.
Welcome back to Casino Royale with Cheese. This is episode number 27 of the show where we discuss movies that were number one at the box office exactly 20 years ago. My name is Shane. With me today, I am joined by the man whose German accent is clean with a touch of Bavarian. This is Mike.
What's up, brother?
Not much, man. How are you?
Dude, I am great. I'm super excited about this week's movie.
Yeah?
We're finally watching, like, good movies.
Yeah. 1998's, it's getting started now. Not bad for late July.
Yeah.
But, like we said last week, we're actually doing a theme for the next few weeks. This is our military movie month. And so we're getting the ball started with this one. Unfortunately, it's all downhill from here because Saving Private Ryan set a pretty high bar, but we'll dig out what we can. In the
to be clear, Saving Private Ryan was the number one movie exactly 20 years ago.
Yes.
It just happened to be the number one movie for 4 weeks.
Right.
So we decided to do our military movie month.
Yes, that is correct. And that being said, I was going to follow that up, but you pretty much covered it. So, way to go, Mike.
Yay, me.
Yeah. I've had a good weekend. I was going to go down there and chill with y'all. We were hoping to record in person this week, but that didn't happen because I got stuck working.
Yeah, you gotta work.
Yeah.
Gotta pay them bills, son.
Mm-hmm. Barely. But aside from that, it's been a pretty chill little weekend when I wasn't working. So, although it is like, I think 3,000 degrees outside, so it's unpleasant. I'll say that for it.
I got to host 5 women all weekend. Nothing better than 5 different women telling you what to do all the time.
Right. 3 of which may or may not have been drunk. So
or high.
Right. Something, yeah.
Or both.
Anyway, we got Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah.
This movie, as far as the cast goes, we'll just say everybody was in it.
It sure seems like it.
Yeah. Pretty much. I think it's interesting. Steven Spielberg said that whenever he was casting this movie, he wanted people that looked like they were actually legitimately in World War, had the appearance of being around in World War II. He said that people didn't look the same nowadays as they did back then, which is
well, they don't look like Hollywood stars.
Right. And that's the thing. There's not a lot of like super pretty boys in this. Maybe Barry Pepper, but that's about as, and Matt Damon, of course. That's about it. Maybe Giovanni Ribisi.
I mean,
he's a good. Well, Vin Diesel is in it. He's a good-looking dude. Yeah. So forget that. Never mind. If you don't know, so I think we might as well just actually change the show to Casino Royale with Spielberg, because how many movies is this that we've discussed of his?
I believe it's our fourth, maybe fifth.
Well, so we've talked about Jurassic Park and E.T.
Yeah,
those two he directed, but he was involved with producing like The Mask of Zorro. He produced Who Framed Roger Rabbit. He produced Back to the Future. I mean, yeah, there's a bunch of them that he's had something to do with. You know,
so it's not our fault. He's a movie badass.
He is a movie BAMF. So, I believe this is his first collaboration with Tom Hanks, though, which is like a match made in heaven. Can't go wrong with that, man.
Well, this was Tom Hanks like in his prime.
Yeah, everybody was living that dude.
You talk about like, you know, when athletes are in their prime, you know, it's like the ages of like 27 to 31. They're like in their prime. Like this is Tom Hanks hitting his prime. Like,
yes,
his delivery on everything is perfect. His emotion in his face is perfect. Like, everything with this guy at this time in his career is just money.
Just on point. Yeah, that's true. Another little unsung hero of mine, it had Tom Sizemore in it. He's the one who plays... So first off, I'm going to go through the names here because I'm not going to sit here and be like, the entire time we talk about this, be like, oh, Wade, also Giovanni Ribisi. So I'm going to say who the actors were, what role they played, and then if you can't keep up, then that's on you while we talk about the movie.
This is the first movie where I really paid attention to like what the characters' names were, and made sure I like wrote them in because it's so integral into their roles is what their names are.
It is. It's kind of funny too because this is the first time I've actually watched this movie and paid attention to their names. Like there's certain ones, Sergeant Horvath and like Private Upham and stuff like that. But a lot of these guys though, I would just be like, oh, Barry Pepper, you know, stuff like that. So this is the first time I've actually watched it analytically and been like, oh, okay, that's who they're talking about. You know, whenever they talk about like Private Rybin, you know, or whatever. But,
right.
But we got Tom Hanks, he plays Captain Miller. Tom Sizemore plays Sergeant Horvath. Dude, Tom Sizemore is like my boy. I think he's great in this and in everything that he's in. I saw him in... Who was it? I don't remember. I want to say it was like Jackie Brown, the Tarantino movie that he was in.
Yeah, he's in a few Tarantino flicks.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's in Reservoir Dogs, right?
I'm not sure. Oh, I know who you're talking about. You're talking about Sean Penn's brother that was in Reservoir Dogs. But no, it was the type of role that you would see him in, but it wasn't that. It wasn't him. We've got Edward Burns, who plays Private Rybin. Barry Pepper plays Private Jackson, who is great in this movie. And then hot off the heels of this, he was in Battlefield Earth, so figure that out. Let's see. Adam Goldberg plays Private Mellish, or Fish, as they call him. Adam Goldberg, he's been around. He played in, what was it? Dazed and Confused back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
His dude showed up at the party, got his ass beat.
Yeah, I noticed in this, like, a lot of these characters, like, these guys we've seen in other things, but for some reason, most of them never blew up. Except for Vin Diesel.
They didn't. Yeah, Vin Diesel. Giovanni did a couple things after this. I think he has a TV show on, like, Amazon Prime or something right now.
Yeah, he does. But, it's called Sneaky Pete.
Yeah, that's what it was. And he was also in, like, Gone in 60 Seconds. And
he's great.
Dude, I don't know why he's not, like, a bigger deal than he is. Because
I think he's really, what's the word I'm looking for? What's the nice way to describe people who are different?
Unique.
Yeah, okay. I guess, but from what I've heard about,
Like
in
eccentric?
Hollywood, yeah, he's really eccentric. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I got you. I could see that. I think that him and Edward Norton are kind of that way too. Like both of them are. Jeremy Davies plays Corporal Upham. I hate that guy, but we'll get into that. He was also in I don't know if you ever watched it or not, but he was in Lost for a while. But,
Yeah, I don't remember him there.
Yeah, he showed up in like season 3 or 4, and he was like this sciencey dude that figured out their time traveling and all this other crap. Shit got weird. Let's see, we got Matt Damon, who plays Private Ryan. Which they, in a lot of this stuff, would give him like top billing. I was like, he's not even in like 2/3 of the movie. But,
Right.
Whatever. Ted Danson shows up.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, it is. Which is great.
I forgot he was in this, and then so when I was watching it this week and he showed up, I was like, "Oh, it's fucking Ted Danson! That's so awesome!"
Yeah. Which is funny. Before this, the only thing when I had first seen this movie, the only thing I was familiar with regarding him was Cheers.
Of course,
You know. Yeah, and so I was like, "That's a really weird casting choice," but whatever. Let's see who he plays. Captain Hamill. We got Paul Giamatti shows up.
Yeah.
Yeah, plays Sergeant Hill. Dennis Farina, he's the Lieutenant Colonel Anderson that gives him this mission to go on, so on and so forth. Why don't you tell me about your past experience with Saving Private Ryan?
Well, I mean, this came out in '98. I was in the Marines. I did go watch this movie in the theater with several friends. So many things like stand out for me in this movie. It's not just that it's a great movie,
Which it is.
it's not just that. It's the way that they shot it. I don't know. We'll talk about most of that stuff when we're watching the movie. When we're talking about watching the movie, but
Yeah.
it just had a big impact on me and made me realize that like what the men that were there in World War II, like what they had gone through. I haven't seen shit compared to that.
Yeah. No, I understand.
And I'm a guy who's got 16 years service in 4 combat deployments, and I still ain't seen shit compared to what those guys have seen.
I gotta say, there's a reason they say that that's like America's best generation. There was a group of absolute badasses, yo.
Have you ever shaken a World War II veteran's hand?
Yeah, I have.
You can feel it.
Mm-hmm.
You can feel it, like they're different than you.
Yeah, they are. And it's funny because one thing that I think is interesting about this movie is that, like, whenever it opens, they show, and we'll go into it later, but the old man that's walking around or whatever. And it could be just a guy that you would see at, like, Cracker Barrel or something, you know, like, just chilling, going to get his, like, early bird special or whatever. But, whenever you think about, he's wearing the little airborne, the Screaming Eagle on his jacket and all that stuff. Like, these guys have a totally, like, crazy story to tell, And I think it's nuts, man. Whenever you just write them off as being an old man, that you're really doing yourself and them a disservice, But
yeah, and we're losing them, man. There's not very many of them left.
I know, it's weird to think about, because when I was growing up, they were talking about, like, well, there's, we lost our last World War I veteran, and now it's, shifted where it's World War II now, like, they're dropping, but...
Yeah, I mean, when I meet them today, most of the time they're wheelchair bound. You know what I mean? Like, they're holding on, but they're getting to the end of the road.
Yeah, they're getting up there.
But I will say, before we get into the movie, regardless of what your political opinions or your view on war and military and all that stuff, it doesn't matter, because the life you get to enjoy today is because of the men and women who served in World War II.
Right.
Completely changed this country and our path and made us the dominant power that we are.
I agree. And if you don't know German, they're the reason why.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Exactly.
That's the thing right there. And just going off on this real quick political caveat, there's like this tendency to call people that, you disagree with Nazis and stuff like that. We're talking about genuine Nazis straight up in this movie. And I'm going to tell you, maybe it's a sick part of me, but as far as movies go, watching Nazis get mowed down brings a certain sick sense of like gratification. I can't stand those dudes, man. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just a sick person, but
No, they were legitimate terrible people.
yeah, they are the worst kind of person. My experience, I watched this. It came out when I was 14, just like every other movie in 1998. And my parents thought that it would be a really good thing for me to check out at the theater. I watched it. I was like, man, this got some great action to it. But I really didn't get into like the nuance of the story or the characters or any of that stuff at the time, you know. And so in subsequent viewings, this movie always, to me, offers something, at least character-wise or something like that I always pick up on, you know. And I actually have grown to really appreciate it. But, you know.
Of movies that we've watched on the show so far, I've seen this one probably more than I've seen any other one.
Yeah.
And I even watching it again this week, there was shit I didn't see before.
Yeah. No, I understand that. Definitely. You want to do some numbers real quick so we can talk about
let's do it.
Okay. This is so funny to me, bro. So check this out. This movie was made on a budget of $70 million.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So my question is if Lethal Weapon 4 was a person and they were sitting in this room right now, my question would be, what the hell? The movie was made on a budget of, what did we say, like $145 million?
Was it really?
Yeah. Are you insane? That movie was more expensive, and like twice as expensive as Saving Private Ryan.
Saving Private Ryan's got a D-Day scene. How the fuck?
Yeah. Right. You know? And you can sit back and say, yeah, well, they drove through a building. So what? You know, look at the cast on this thing. You've got Spielberg, like one of the highest paid directors ever. And then you've got just explosions out the ass in this movie, you know? There is no reason that movie should have cost as much as it did. But
they have fucking tanks in this movie.
Right.
German tanks.
Exactly. We've already a little bit discussed the fact that we already know that this movie was 4 weeks, number one.
Yes.
Do you dare to take a guess as to how it did domestically overall?
$300 million.
That is a bit off, we'll say. It was $216,540,000 and some change.
Okay.
But it did pretty well in the U.S., but overall, worldwide, it brought in almost $500 million. It was $481 million and some change. So overall, huge success, I would say. I think... Oh, one thing I thought was interesting about this was apparently Tom Sizemore. Spielberg was blood testing him every day on the set before filming.
For drinking?
Because, no, he had a major drug issue at the time. And from what I can tell, it was like serious, hardcore drug-related stuff.
Like heroin or cocaine or something like that.
And so
he wasn't just smoking a little bit of pot.
Right. Pot, I don't care. Probably Giovanni Ribisi and Barry Pepper would smoke together off scene. You know?
Right.
But no, he told him, you know, he said, if you come, he goes, you can have this part in this movie. He goes, but I'm going to drug test you every day. He said, and if the drug test comes back positive, then I'm going to recast your part. Is what he told him straight up.
Wow.
So, yeah. I guess he kept clean for however long filming took.
Worth it, Tom. Worth it.
Yeah. And I guess they did like the training for like military, like some type of like 2-week boot camp or basic training or whatever. But they intentionally excluded Matt Damon so that he wouldn't have any sort of camaraderie with the other guys that were in the movie.
Smart.
Yeah, it was pretty smart. That's Spielberg for you.
Yep.
Let's go ahead because I'm chomping at the bit, man. Let's get started on this thing.
Okay. You want me to start?
Yeah, why not?
All right. So we start off with the screen full of just a waving American flag, the sun shining through it.
Mm-hmm.
Really simple shot, but breathtaking to me.
It is. The flag's almost translucent because the way the lighting is.
Yeah, you got a light source on the other side of it, so yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an older gentleman, and his family appears to be with him, and they are in a cemetery because there's an American and a French flag, presumably in France.
Right. I actually did a Wikipedia search. It's the Normandy American Cemetery and Memorial, and I guess it's a memorial that they have right near Omaha Beach, and it basically has like headstones for everybody that died in World War II on the European front, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. You want to see a really crazy image? Google search like artist recreates D-Day dead or something like that, and the artist takes like these silhouettes, like 1-to-1 scale, like human shaped silhouettes, and lays them out on the beach of Normandy. Really? To the exact number of people who died on the beach that day. It's it just blows your mind.
Wow.
So, you have to check that out sometime. But so they're in France then. They are.
Yep.
I always thought they were. I knew that cemeteries like that existed over there. But okay. So and then he sees a headstone and it gets him very emotional. We don't know what headstone it is, but something makes him really emotional. And then we flash to June 6th, 1944, also known as D-Day. We're on Dog Beach in Normandy.
D-Day. Shit's about to go down, bro.
This is early in the movie. This is 5 minutes in.
Yes.
And as soon as that ramp drops, I was like, "Oh shit! They're not fucking around in this movie."
No, they're not. One thing that I think is kind of cool about this whole thing. So, of course, you got like your Steven Spielberg like touches to it, where shows the guys like barfing over the side of the amphibious vehicles, and stuff like
guys
that. Guys
praying.
Yeah. And guys are just losing their shit. You could tell people, like, nobody wants to be there, obviously, but we also catch in a little bit. We cut into Tom Hanks, who we soon find out is Captain Stephen Miller, or John Miller. I was thinking Steve Miller Band or something. No, it's John Miller, and you look on his hand, and he's got, like, this little twitch going. It almost looks like a little Parkinson's vibration or something. But, you can see that his nerves are obviously frayed.
Understandably so.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting. Anytime his hand starts shaking, something bad always happens in this movie.
Yeah.
Just about. One thing I think is also interesting, apparently there's a big controversy at the time, because the girls that were with the old man at the beginning in present day, I guess they like posed in Playboy or something like that. The three granddaughters, little blondies, yeah. So
all three of them posed in Playboy?
Yeah. I guess they're like really sisters too. So yeah. Oh shit. Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever.
It's not like they played a big role. They're just girls standing in the background.
Hugh Hefner thought they needed a bigger role, I guess. So.
Oh Jesus.
But so we get the call that in 30 seconds they're gonna have contact.
Ramps down in 30 seconds.
And all of a sudden the doors open and dudes just start dropping. Instantaneously start dropping.
Yeah.
They don't have a chance to get off the boat, nothing,
No, the bodies are literally piling up on the boat. And Captain Miller starts yelling like, "Get over the sides. Jump over the sides."
Bad move.
So they do.
I don't think that was a good idea.
Dude, what else are you going to do? Stand there and get shot?
That's valid. And to be fair, they were more successful at that. But you start seeing guys start getting like weighed down by all the gear that they're carrying and shit like that. And they can't get out and they wind up drowning instead of getting shot. And then we see where the Nazis are actually shooting the guys underwater, like shooting into the water, which according to Mythbusters that wouldn't work at all. But anyway.
It's a fucking nightmare, dude.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's raining blood.
Oh yeah.
So the reason why it's raining blood is there's so many injured people and dead people in the water and on the beach that blood is turned color of the ocean water red.
Right.
And when like the artillery rounds and mortar rounds and stuff are landing in there, it's splashing up this bloody water. And there's a scene where like it splashes onto like Tom Hanks' face.
Right.
And you're like, oh god, like I can't imagine. I can't imagine.
Right. And I'm sure that
imagine.
This was a little Spielberg touch, but at one point, there's an explosion that goes off right by him, and he winds up getting like shell shocked, like he can't hear for a second and stuff like that. And he takes his helmet off, and so he goes to put it back on, and it's just full of blood, like watery blood,
Yeah.
And then you see it just streak down his face. So I really didn't even take a whole lot of notes in this scene because there's just so much chaos. I could have filled up an entire notebook about what's going on during the beach storm at Omaha Beach.
Yeah, I just said explosions and death everywhere.
Yeah. Well, you see there's a guy that's on the beach and he's screaming out for a medic, but he's like trying to hold his guts in, There's another fella that Tom Hanks sees that is like going, and he like finds his like severed arm and like picks it up and starts walking. That's gonna do him any good, We see a little bit later on where what was it, old dude, basically they're using like dead bodies as like cover and stuff like that. They start setting up a triage with the medic, Wade.
Well, it's several medics.
Yeah, there are, and one of them he's like ruling over, and he's basically trying to like go through the triage with him, like give that dude some morphine, go to the next guy. That dude is dying,
Well,
shit
if
you can do for him.
If you listen, he's actually giving categories. That's what triage is.
Yeah, like category
priority, sustainable, immediate.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's giving them like different medical like diagnoses. So even all this chaos, that dude is still doing his job.
Right.
There's even a really impactful scene where like there's like 4 or 5 medics all working on this one guy, trying to stop his bleeding and all this stuff, and he's like, I did it, I stopped his bleeding, and as soon as he did, the dude gets shot in the head anyways.
Pegged right in the head,
yeah. So Wade's like, just give us a chance, Jesus,
give us a fucking chance. Yeah. At one point, Tom Hanks is trying to carry this dude that's injured up the beach. This explosion goes off, and he hits the ground, and then he like gets back up, grabs the dude, and he starts dragging him, only to realize that there's only half of the dude left. Just shitty stuff, Yeah.
Even when they get to the berm, and Captain Miller is calling in his like orders through the radio operator.
Yeah.
And then he keeps grabbing the radio operator over by the shoulder and telling him what to say, and then he rolls back over. Well, one time he grabs him and like his face is gone.
His face is caved in. Yeah.
Yeah. So then he just like was like, oh damn, grabs the radio. It's shot too.
Right. What's the other guy? Oh, the guy that gets shot in the helmet. And he's like, what the hell? Stop the bullet. And he like takes his helmet off and looks at it, and then he gets shot in the head.
Well,
you're an idiot. But yeah.
Caparzo's like, lucky bastard. And then he takes off his helmet and gets shot in the head.
Right.
If it hit your helmet, dude, that means get your head down.
Right. Don't take your helmet off. Jeez. You're dumb.
But take your these helmet guys, off. He's combat. Not dumb, dude. He's stunned.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Still not a good idea.
Put you in that environment. See how well you're thinking.
Right. Yeah. And that's what blows my mind is whenever I was watching this, I'm sitting there originally when I was watching it. Of course, I had no military expertise at the time or anything like that, So I'm watching it. I'm like, I'm surprised that the medics are wasting their time, trying to, like, there's dead bodies everywhere. What are you gonna do, But I mean, that's his job, But I'm just sitting there like, that's paddling way upstream, That's like trying to paddle up Niagara Falls, But
yeah, but if they can just save one, it's worth it to them.
Exactly, that's true. Of course, that was 20 years ago. But so they managed to make it up to this berm, and it's lined with concertina wire. And at first, it's just Captain Miller and Sergeant Horvath that arrived there. And that's whenever he's shouting to the RSO, the radio guy, about, doing this and that, and finding out, where the rest of the guys are and stuff. Because the rest of their company hasn't made it there yet. And finally, guys start streaming in. We get Ryben, Mellish and all those dudes, Caparzo. And they decide they're going to use Bangalores, try to blow through this berm so they can make it up. Yeah. Why don't you explain what a Bangalore does, Mike?
Bangalores are commonly used for like breaching concertina wire obstacles, but basically it's like a long tube that has an explosive device inside of it.
Right.
So and it's meant to blow like up.
Yeah.
So you can like run it on the ground, or I think in the movie they used it. They like dug a little holes through the berms.
Right.
So they
or
can
just slipped it in between the concertina and something like that.
Yeah, but you want to get it below the obstacle because it's going to blow up.
Right.
And then it clears the path. And fortunately for these guys, they used it successfully.
Yeah. I think part of the strategy too is that you have more control over where your explosive is going instead of like just chucking a grenade and it's going to go where it's going to go, like there's two.
Well, Bangalores have
control it
a lot more explosive in it than a hand grenade.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's C4, isn't it? In a Bangalore.
Yeah, they use some type of explosive compound.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The new ones are dope as fuck.
I've only got to use those once in like a training environment. So.
Did you use the ones that you launch out of a backpack?
We just use the old tube.
We have these new ones where like you take off. You can carry it in a pack, and then when you get to the point where we used it for like clearing minefields.
Yeah.
Like trying to get a path. So you take this thing, you put the pack, open it up, and you see all the explosives like lined up like in a snake almost. Mm-hmm. Take off one end, you launch it, stick it on the tube, you launch it, and it flies out, pulling all the explosives on a chain with it.
Oh yeah.
And then when it when it gets to the end of the chain, which is like 50 fucking meters, it falls down on the ground and then it explodes in like a domino effect.
If you will, yeah.
So it clears a path for you.
Kind of like those black cats we were launching.
Yeah, but way bigger.
Bigger, yeah. Louder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, so yeah, the Bangalores, like, they were able to breach the obstacles in front of them.
Mm-hmm. They soon find out. So I guess they make it to this one spot where they're essentially like hold down, and there's this machine gun, this guy in a turret that's just trying to mow them down, but they're behind this wall, and so they managed to create like this cover fire for the guys to go through. And then he sends
use a mirror trick.
Yeah, they do. That's pretty
Takes
awesome.
a bayonet, a piece of gum, and I don't know where he gets the shiny piece of metal.
Yeah. There's
he
probably just from somebody's hygiene bag or something.
Yeah, maybe. Sticks on this bayonet and looks around the corner, and that's how he can see like what they got to get through.
Yeah. They send in the secret weapon, which is Private Jackson. I love this dude.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, he is. He's a deeply religious fellow. And he quotes scripture whenever he's sniping and doesn't miss a beat, dude. He's incredible.
He truly believes God's given him the gift.
Mm-hmm.
He is not what you would call a sniper.
No.
In infantry platoons, you call him your designated marksman. So like that's what his job is. You give him a longer rifle with a different caliber, different kind of scope. Yeah. And his job is just to take out people like that.
Right.
So I like the fact they never call him a sniper in the movie.
Right. I agree. Snipers, yeah, they do their own thing pretty much. So he sends in Jackson, and it's weird because you see the chaplain at one point like walking around like praying over the guys that are passing away. Once again, that's gonna be a long day for that dude.
Oh yeah.
And then so it's great because Jackson is quite successful in taking out these machine gunners. And then basically the entire battle like shifts at that point. The Americans are able to make it up to these turrets and these encampments where all the Nazis are at, and they just start doing damage on these guys. Like, it's crazy, dude. They're bringing the guys with the flamethrowers, and they just start spraying inside of these bunkers and whatnot.
Yeah, and at one point the Germans are even like trying to crawl out of the bunker.
Yeah.
They're on fire, and
Right.
another some soldier that we don't know yells out, "Don't shoot them! Let them burn!"
Let them burn. Yeah. They go through. That's basically it. You know, they blow the doorways, and there's these guys that are running through these trenches. They're just mowing them down, pretty much. At one point, some Nazis they try to turn themselves in. Yeah, surrender, and they shoot them anyway.
Yeah.
I think there was a joke in there, but I guess I don't. He's like, "Look, we washed for dinner," you know, and
yeah. They were saying, "What did he say? What? We don't understand you. What are you saying? What are you saying?" And the Germans are holding their hands up, obviously surrendering.
right,
They put 2 in each of them, and then
yeah,
they're like, "What do you think he was saying?" Like, we obviously know what he was saying.
right. I
But-
surrender. Yeah,
Yeah, don't shoot.
yeah.
But the American soldier said, "I washed for dinner."
Yeah, look, I washed for dinner. Because his hands were up, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it was his joke, yeah.
He made it up on the spot, you go.
Right. Nazi... let's see. Oh, at one point, Private Caparzo finds a dead Nazi, and he pulls this knife off of him, and he hands it to Mellish, or Fish, as they call him. And
It's a Hitler Youth knife.
yeah, Mellish is Jewish.
Right.
And he just breaks down. And that kind of gets me in the feels a little bit, because here we got this Jewish soldier that basically is fighting against basically an entire military regime that wants nothing more than to see him dead. And I think that him seeing that Hitler Youth knife and being brought up to like have so much hatred from an early age, like basically brought him to tears, you know.
So, my first deployment into Iraq... Mellish, by the way, he hits me in the feels a few times in this movie.
Yeah.
But I had a mechanic with me in Iraq, my first deployment, and we were on combat patrols, and he rode with us in case like something happened with the truck. He could fix it. And he's Jewish. And I guess there's a lot of like bad blood between the Muslim and the Jewish religions.
There is. Yeah.
Well, I know I'm familiar with like what's going on over in like...
Palestine and Israel and all that shit, yeah.
Yeah, but like this dude harbored it.
Okay.
My mechanic, like it really bothers him. So like, he was always looking for a fight when we were out there. It was pretty crazy. Yeah.
The mechanic.
Yeah.
He's out for blood. That's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy.
There you go. He'll fix your vehicle and win the war all by himself, you know.
Yeah. So after Fish is done, or while he's crying, we cut away to the beach.
Oh, we see Sergeant Horvath, and he's collecting these tins full of dirt from all the places
that's right.
he's been.
He's been to a lot of places.
He has been. He's got an entire duffel bag full of them.
Mm-hmm.
But what I wouldn't carry that around if that were me. You're already carrying around all this equipment and shit. I'm not carrying around tins full of dirt too, like an entire second bag full, you know.
Yeah, but where's it gonna keep him?
I wouldn't keep them. Whatever.
Well, it's a pretty common thing.
Yeah.
It's pretty common for soldiers who've been on foreign soil. They keep a little bit.
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
But so Horvath tells Captain Miller, he said, "That's quite a view." And that's whenever Captain Miller's like, "That is quite a view." And then we see all the dead bodies that are strewn out on the beach. And that's where we're leaving off with you. So go ahead.
Oh, we see all these bodies on the beach, the camera is panning across the vast count of bodies, and we focus in on one in particular who's laying face down, and we see on his pack as the camera zooms in, Ryan.S.
Mm-hmm. We do. So obviously there's a Ryan that has passed away, at least one.
Right.
So there's like we cut to this typing pool where there's.
Well, that's our first clue that why this movie's called Saving Private Ryan.
Right. Yes. That was Sean Ryan. Yeah.
Right.
We get to where there's all these lady folk that are in the typing pool typing all these condolence letters about all the guys that died on D-Day.
It's a room full of typewriter people.
Like, dozens of them, man. Like,
Yeah.
Just typing their asses off.
Yeah, maybe even 50, 60
Yeah.
people
It's
in there
crazy.
typing, and they're going to town. Like, they're not taking breaks. They're not
Right.
smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee. They're typing.
Nope.
And there's
Staying
stacks
busy.
of letters on their desks
Yeah.
that they've
been
already typed
typing
up.
all day. Yeah. And there's one woman in particular that like is typing a letter and she sees a name. She goes over and she's like, "Wait a minute." She goes and checks out, pulls up a stack of letters, and she's like, "Oh!" And she finds a couple more, and she ends up bringing it to her, I guess the commanding officer that was there at the time.
Yeah, he's a
And-
captain.
Right. He brings it to the War Department colonel, which is Bryan Cranston, young fella. Did you notice that was him?
Yeah, minus one arm.
Yeah. And so it turns out that I guess this S. Ryan, he had 3 brothers, and 2 of the brothers are dead, including himself now. And so there's one brother that's still alive.
1 out of 4.
Yes. And so they go and they notify, what's that general's name? General George Marshall. They notify
Chief
him.
of Staff.
Big time. And basically they tell him like, there's a pretty good chance, they're telling the general, this dude is probably already dead. We don't have any sort of accountability for him. Whenever he parachuted in, they have no idea where he went. They're under fire. And so I don't think that it would be in the Army's best interest to go through and try to locate him, because they don't want the... Go ahead.
We found out that they actually were all 4 brothers were in the same company at one time.
Yeah.
But after the Sullivan family lost all 5 sons on the aircraft carrier,
Right.
they split the boys up. Now, the Sullivans is a true story,
That is a true story.
where the family actually lost 5 sons in one day.
There's a song about it.
Yeah, who sings that song?
I have no idea.
It was popular in the grunge scene.
Yeah.
And then, and I guess during the Civil War, there was a similar story of the Bixby family.
The Bixby family, yes.
And they lost 5 boys in the same day. And that general reads us a letter that President Abraham Lincoln wrote to Mrs. Bixby.
Yeah. And I didn't know anything about the Bixbys.
I didn't either.
Until
I
I
looked it
actually
up.
went on Wikipedia. Yeah. There you go.
It's real.
Yeah. It's a letter from Abraham Lincoln in November 1864 to Lydia Parker Bixby, a widow living in Boston, Massachusetts, who is thought to have lost 5 sons in the Union Army during the Civil War. They say that along with the Gettysburg Address and his second inaugural address, this letter has been praised one of Lincoln's finest written works and is often produced in memorials, media, and in print. So,
It's beautifully written.
oh yeah, it's great. And he basically pulls this letter out, and the gist of it is that I can't begin to tell you, I can't begin to imagine the kind of grief and anguish that you're going through. Hopefully you'll find some sort of solace in the fact that your boys fought to preserve the United States, the Union, and hopefully your memories and your thoughts about them will be enough to basically get you through. This is essentially the gist of it.
Yeah. Like, nothing I can say will make this better.
No.
But
Right.
just know that we are truly grateful for your loss.
Right.
Yeah.
And that they died for a higher purpose, basically, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then General Marshall says, we are going to send somebody to find him. And they're talking about Ryan. And so he gets tasked with finding Ryan. They said...
Captain Miller.
Captain Miller does, yes. He needs 6 guys and an interpreter to go with him.
Well, we find out, like, from just the quick briefing that he gives Lieutenant Colonel, that he's been through, like, it wasn't just D-Day that
No.
he's been through. He's been through hell for, like, the last few days, just
Right.
fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting.
I guess it's been 3 days since D-Day, and he's been like, they talk about how there were, 47 guys that had died under his command, and then another, twice of that were injured. and like all this shit just in the last 3 days, you know. Like it gets crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they killed 200 Germans, and
yeah.
he goes on to like list all the like the artillery they took out and all this stuff.
Right. So he gets tasked. There's a total of 8 guys going, including Captain Miller. He has to pick 6 and then grab a new interpreter because his is dead. And so he hears about a Corporal Upham, who, from what I can tell, is just some pencil pusher.
Well, he has no experience.
He doesn't. He's like he works a battalion, basically. You know.
Right.
Yeah.
He just interprets letters.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you got intelligence sources, you just bring them to him. He would read them in German and type them in English.
Right. He even tells Cap Miller that he hasn't used his weapon since basic training.
Mm-hmm.
And
Cap Miller's like, "Did you shoot it there? Okay, then get your shit. Let's go.
Get your gear." Yeah. At one point, he's trying to like futz around with this typewriter. He just holds up a pencil, like, "Here you go."
Yeah. We need that typewriter. Let's go.
Right. So, anyway, Sergeant, here's the rundown of all the guys going. First off, we got Captain Miller, we got Sergeant Horvath, we got PFC Private First Class Ryben, Private First Class Caparzo, Private Mellish, Private Jackson, and then their medic named Wade. And that's the crew that's going on this mission to find Private Ryan.
Well, he picked those out of his platoon, which the rest of them, or his company, and the rest of them were absorbed into other companies.
Right.
And I'm just surprised there's not at least like one sergeant in there.
Except for Horvath, yeah.
Which he would be a platoon sergeant.
Right.
So I'm just surprised there. And I think he's like the acting first sergeant, actually.
I think you're right, because
they're really close.
Yeah. Well, he's at E7, so he's like right under it anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, and Cap Miller and him are like on first name basis. So
yeah, those are
typically that's a first sergeant commander kind of relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I'm just surprised there's not like a one buck sergeant in the group or something.
Like a staff sergeant, regular sergeant, something. Yeah, that's weird. And that's the thing is that we got. Well, I guess we do have a corporal, but he doesn't know anything. So.
No.
Whatever. In fact, these guys, they've been fighting together for so long that they have a camaraderie, and they do not care for Upham at all.
It's hilarious.
It is. They share my sentiment, we'll say.
What's funny, though, is we don't know much about Upham and his character yet, but I've been that guy.
Yeah.
I was the new guy who showed up in a deployment. Like, they were already like 3 months in.
Right.
And, I mean, this was in Baghdad in the heat of the surge. Like, it was crazy days. And I showed up like 3 months in. And those dudes didn't like me. Matter of fact, they thought I was like criminal investigation, like undercover. Because I was a corporal, or I was a specialist that had been in the Army for 4 months and was 27 years old. And, like, just none of this shit made sense to them.
Right. Yeah.
And they didn't like me at all. It took me probably 60 days before like they kind of let me in.
Right. At least started talking to you.
Well, weren't just complete dicks to me all the time.
Right. Yeah. But so we get through this deal where the guys, they're essentially walking in formation, and they start voicing their complaints to Captain Miller. They think that it's stupid for 8 people to risk their lives to save one person. And they actually, at one point, talk about how it's FUBAR, which Upham doesn't know what that is.
It's so funny.
Yeah. It's German. He's like, I'm not familiar with that. Yeah.
It's still a word that we use a lot in the military.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And basically, at one point, they're like, yo, if you were going to gripe about the mission captain, what would you say? And he goes into this whole deal about how, he thinks that it's an important use of Army resources and that he's going to complete the mission to the best of his ability. He said that he feels genuine sorrow for the mother of Private James Ryan and that he would gladly lay down his life. He goes, and the life of my men, especially yours, for the saving or for the safe travels of Private Ryan, which is pretty funny.
You can tell that, like, in Caparzo even says so, but they love Captain Miller.
Yeah, that's the difference. Is that there's certain people that you'd gladly like go into battle with. And obviously he's one of them.
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to work for a couple of those guys too, and when you have a leader that you truly trust and have full confidence in, it makes a huge difference on what you're willing to do.
Mm-hmm. I've had some that were on the other end of the spectrum as well.
Me too.
It's like,
Me too.
I don't trust that dude at all.
Yeah.
If I follow that dude anywhere, I'm gonna die.
I was on a deployment where we had a new commander come in like halfway through the deployment, and the company almost like shut down.
Oh wow.
It was like to the point where like platoon sergeants were telling the commander like, "This is what we're gonna do." It was pretty crazy.
Just like morale was crap, and there's
no
discipline,
it was just no, sir, we're not doing that.
Oh man,
that's stupid. We're gonna do this instead. It was pretty crazy. Yeah,
I hear you. So I think that this is another nice little Spielberg touch. So it starts sprinkling rain, and the raindrops hitting the leaves. You can hear them make a little patter sound whenever they hit, and all of a sudden that blends over into gunfire, which is a really, really nice touch, man. I gotta say, I like it.
They do a lot of really great things in this movie.
Yeah,
like that. There's a scene coming up here in a little bit I just love. But all right, So are we at the village?
Yeah, we get to this town and we meet Paul Giamatti, Sergeant whatever.
He's awesome, Sergeant Awesome. Let's just call him so.
Sergeant Awesome. That's your rank.
Yeah.
So basically, he asked him. I guess Sergeant Awesome there's a handful of guys that he's with, but there's actually another unit that's at another part of this town. But he can't meet up with them because there's Nazi snipers in the area and a whole bunch of soldiers in between them. And he's like, I don't have a Private Ryan here. He's like, but you might go ask Captain Hamill and his boys about it because they might have somebody that knows something about it. And so
there's so many funny things if you are really paying attention to this scene. Okay, so like for instance, like Carpazzo finds like a stack of apples.
Yeah, he's trying to find one that's not rotten.
Yeah, and there's a gunfight, like a firefight going on. And he's like takes a bite of an apple, spits it out, chucks it to the side, picks up another apple, takes a bite, spits it out, chucks it to the side, picks up another apple. Oh, that one's pretty decent. But there's like a firefight. But when a bullet gets close to him, then he throws the apple down and he gets involved.
Right, just as he finds the good apple, shit starts going down and he chucks it. Yeah. Yeah,
and Sergeant Awesome like tells one of his like privates like, "Hey, get me a runner," and the guy just yells out, "Runner!" Like, I'm not fucking gonna do that,
right? That's pretty funny.
It's like when your mom would say, "Shane, go get your father," and you'd be like, "Dad,
go get."
And she's like, "Yeah, I could have did that."
Right, exactly. So we soon see they make their way up through this deal. All the firefighting is basically stopped, and there's this building that like has an entire side of it that's missing. But there's this French family that's still living there, and they're basically talking to the American soldiers, trying in French, of course, but they're trying to convince them to take their daughter with them because they feel like their daughter's going to be safer.
Well, they want them to take all the kids.
Right. And
the daughter's just the one they start dangling off the ledge first.
Right. And everybody's like, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. And Caparzo, he's like, here, just give me the daughter. We'll take care of her, whatever. And then he grabs her up. And then sure enough, like right as he grabs her and like sets her down, they're like, Caparzo, put her back. We're not taking a little girl with us. He gets tagged like by a sniper.
And he's completely disregarding the orders from the commander, from Captain Hill, who's telling him repeatedly to do not to grab that girl. We are not taking her with us. That is not safe. And Caparzo's just like, it's the decent thing to do.
We're not gonna do the decent thing, Yeah. We're not here to do the decent thing.
But yes, he is sniped.
Mm-hmm. It looked like he got hit in the leg, but
he got hit in the chest.
Oh, did he? Because I noticed that he was kind of like hobbling on one leg, but yeah.
I've never been shot in the chest, but from what I understand, anytime you get shot, like it takes the wind out of you, and you kind of like you lose your legs almost.
I could see shit going pretty weird after getting tagged in the chest. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I know quite a few guys who have been shot, not necessarily in the chest, but shoulders and things like that. And they said that it just takes the wind right out of you, and your legs almost go completely noodle on you.
Yeah, I believe it. Oh, one thing right before that is I wanted to mention that nobody knows where Captain Miller is from. They don't know where he's from, what he does for a living, like in the civilian world or anything like that. Something that comes into play later on. But
yeah, they have a pool.
Trying to guess what he did.
They're putting money together on trying to figure out what he did.
Yep. And so, anyway, they decide after Caparzo gets shot, everybody's basically behind cover, and it's at that point that Captain Miller, I mean, they're not going to send the medic out there because he's just going to get shot too. Captain Miller decides that he's going to send Jackson to go try to take out the sniper. And once again, Jackson is a bad motherfucker, dude.
Yeah, he looks through like the back window of a car and is like, if I was a sniper, that's where I'd be.
Yeah.
And he finds this like tower.
He does. He hides behind like this pile of rubble and just kind of sits there and waits until he sees some movement. And sure enough, there's a sniper in this tower, and he is looking for Caparzo. I think that he was hoping that people would go out there and try to help him. But
100%.
Yeah.
That's a very common tactic.
Right. Anyway, he winds up getting... he's just kind of looking around, scanning the area, and sure enough, like right at the exact wrong time, he figures out that there's a sniper, that Jackson's down there waiting to like shoot him, And so anyway, he winds up shooting this dude through the scope and into his eye. That's a badass move, dude.
It's an amazing scene.
Yeah, I call bullshit,
think this is,
but yeah.
Oh, this is another one MythBusters did.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did this one too. But
did it work or
only like once out of like 20 times they did it or something.
Oh. So it is possible. So
yeah,
we'll just say Jackson's badass. But yeah. So meanwhile, Caparzo ends up dying, laying out here in the middle of the rain. They take his letter that he wrote to his dad, and they put the little girl back in her house where they belong. I don't know what Caparzo was thinking. You can't traipse across the European front with the little girl, What are you going to do?
Caparzo is not thinking.
He's not.
No. The reason we know that is because of the Apple thing.
Yeah. He's shell-shocked.
He's in his own little world now.
Yeah.
He's not in reality anymore. If he has time to like taste the apples during a gunfight,
right?
Then I think they show us the apples so that it makes sense. While he's just like, it's the decent thing to do. Like he's kind of out of it.
Right. I can see that.
The little girl slaps her dad.
Yeah, she does. She just keeps yelling at him and slapping him.
I love that touch. Like,
yeah.
And the dad's just crying. He completely understands why she's slapping him.
Right.
But could you imagine how terrifying that would be?
Oh, yeah. Here's some men that you are strangers. They can't even understand you. Go with them,
But as a father.
Oh, yeah. Well, and
like you have a family of 4 now. Now, imagine that half your house is blown apart, and you live in the middle of a war zone.
Right. And then the good guys come traipsing through. I would probably try to get them to take my kid. They're safer with them than they are with me.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's bad. It's just a fucked up scenario. It's FUBAR,
It's FUBAR. They walk a little bit longer and they find the other unit. I like how
do they find the other unit? Why don't you tell us?
What you talking about with code words?
With the no, so the well, the code words, go into that a little bit.
Well, I just it's a real thing that we actually do, and I love the fact that they do it every time in this movie. Like even if they do it kind of casually, they still at least do it,
Right.
So you always just yell thunder, and the other side yells flash, and that's how you know there's friendlies.
Right.
And when they get there, Sergeant Awesome sits down. I guess he's got like a rock in his boot or something. he sits down to like take the rock out of his boot, and he hits some lumber that falls over into the wall, a brick wall, and it collapses the brick wall, and it's a whole like squad of Nazi soldiers.
Yeah.
And they're literally like 8 feet from each other, the two squads, and they're just
Right.
like yelling at each other, like put him down, put him down, put him down.
Right.
And this goes on for a while.
It does.
Like the
A few
tension's
seconds,
building.
like 30 seconds or so, yeah.
Yeah. And two guys above them, 2 Americans above them, just open up machine gun fire on these Nazi soldiers and wipe them all
Right.
out.
Take him out, yeah.
And Sergeant Awesome was still in the same exact spot when he fell over.
Right? He wasn't going to move. And then Sergeant Awesome makes his exit from the movie, I think, right after that. That's it.
Well, they bed down. Wait. Oh, that's when he gets to Lieutenant
Yes,
Ted
Captain
Danson.
Hamill.
Captain Hamill, yeah.
Yeah. And he said, hey, we got a message for a Private James Ryan. And he's like, all right. He goes, well, send Ryan up here. Sure enough, there's a Private Ryan in their company. Private Ryan comes running up, and all the other guys are like, I knew he was an asshole, all this other stuff. Because this guy does look pretty derpy, I'm not going to lie. And it's actually Nathan Fillion from like Firefly and shit like that plays this Private Ryan, Mm-hmm. And so anyway, he tells him, he's like, hey man, he said, I got some bad news, your brothers are all dead and you're going home, And the dude starts crying, and he's like, how did they die? He's like, in combat, And he's like, that's not possible. He said, my brothers are still in grade school. he's like, what are you talking about? And he says, what is it? He said,
he's from Minnesota or something like that.
He goes, you're James Francis Ryan from Iowa. And he goes, no, I'm James Frederick Ryan from Minnesota. And he's like, talking about, he's like, does that mean that my brothers are okay? He's like, yeah, I'm sure they're fine,
I need to go home now.
Right?
I just wrote them a letter.
I just want to talk to my mom. Yeah. Which, that's actually one of the, there's not a whole lot of comedy in this movie, but that scene made me laugh, Anyway, so they go through, they talk to Captain Hamill, and he said that apparently they have a guy with them that parachuted in randomly, and he has a broken leg, but he's actually from the same company that Ryan was in. And so they talked to him, and they said that that they should try looking for him in this little town called Veerville.
Well, he doesn't know where he basically said, we don't know where anyone's at, but we have the same rally point.
Right, yeah. Exactly. And so they decide that they're going to go early in the morning, and for the evening, Captain Miller and his boys hole up in a church, basically try to get some sleep.
Well, they decide they're going to move out under darkness, but
Right.
yes,
Yeah.
they're going to get some sleep inside this church.
Mm-hmm.
So we get a nice little moment between Captain Miller and Sergeant Horvath.
Yep.
Yeah, they talk about a kid named Vecchio.
Mm-hmm. Vicky is a funny dude, man.
Yeah, I guess he can walk around on his hands. He got shot in the foot once, so he learned to walk on his hands everywhere.
They said he was faster on his hands than he was on his feet.
Yeah, he would piss V on everybody's jackets. He would piss the letter V on everybody's jacket for victory. V for victory. And they just have a nice little laugh about it. And then that kind of leads into the first time we see Miller is a little shaken up. Mm-hmm. That a Vecchio, a Carvarzio, is this worth it?
Yeah. And that's kind of the thing, is that at this point Captain Miller is kind of questioning the mission and the whole idea of having 8 guys try to save one dude, and he tells him, he's like, I wouldn't trade 10 Ryans for one Vecchio or one Caparzo,
Yeah. He says he's lost 94 men.
Yeah, a lot.
Since he's been in command. And the only way he's been able to justify that is he tells himself that for every man he lost, he saved 10 others.
Mm-hmm. He says, maybe I was able to save 2 or 3 or 10, And then at one point, he's like, I've lost 94 guys, but maybe 1,000 people or 2,000, are alive now, And
Right.
he's just trying to rationalize all this these people that he's led to their death. You know, it's pretty heavy weight to bear. You know. Then we get to he says that Ryan better be worth it. He better create the cure to cancer, create the longer lasting light bulb. You know.
Yeah. Like I like how that he doesn't put that high of a bar on him.
Right.
Like just do something.
Right. Don't just be a jerk. You know, that flips people off.
We get to hang out with the other soldiers for a little while.
Yeah. Turns out Jackson head hits the pillow. He's out. The other guys stay up and they bullshit, and they're like, I wonder how he falls asleep like that. And they basically say that it's because he has a clear conscience. And we see where Wade is actually, because whenever Caparzo died, he had blood all over his letter, so he's like rewriting it on clean paper. And so they get to talking about like how to easily fall asleep. So the best way is to try to not to fall asleep, and you'll fall asleep like super quick, is what Wade talks about. And then he goes into detail about how like his mom used to work nights, and she would come home and like talk to him and stuff, and it seemed like whenever he would try to like stay awake for her to come home, that's whenever he'd fall asleep, you know. And then he says that sometimes though she'd come home and he would still be awake, but then he would pretend like he was asleep. And he's having a tough time reconciling that, and he doesn't know why he would do something like that to his mom, you know. Which it's a fucked up scene, man. But
yeah, I don't know. Like I think you mentioned it before we started talking about the movie, about how like the action, you obviously notice the action without trying. Like the action stands out on its own. But like the dialogue and what we learn about these individuals and the fights that they're fighting internally, like it's pretty powerful shit.
It is. And I think that whenever you're in a situation like that, whenever you could die at any moment, and I'm sure that you could probably attest, you start beating yourself up and like thinking about all the fucked up shit you've ever done, even if you weren't trying to like, you know, mess with somebody or make them feel bad or whatever. You know, it's just natural that you start thinking about like, man, I should have done this different, you know, and all this other stuff. And you can tell that this guy's pretty upset about, you know, stupid crap that he did with his mom back in the day, you know.
Well, I mean, he would do anything for a minute with her right now.
Exactly. Kind of took her for granted. But,
yeah.
So,
and then
yeah.
they go to sleep, right? And we cut to a really beautifully done scene where they're walking through, looks like fields, and they're being silhouetted by explosions and stuff in the background.
Oh, one thing real quick is that Corporal Upham and Captain Miller, he asked him, he said, so what did you do in the civilian world? He's like, what's the pool on me up to right now? And he's like, $300. He goes, I'll tell you what. He goes, whenever it gets up to 500, he says, I'll go through and tell you what I used to do for a living. He goes, and then you'll get the pool and we'll split it. And he's like, well, why don't we just make it 1,000? He's like, do you think we're going to live that long? And he's like, we'll go with 500, you know. It's kind of a funny little scene. But he actually quotes Emerson to Captain Miller at one point, and he's like, you know Emerson? And he's like, yeah, I've read some of his stuff. So you kind of know that he has a little bit of like a, you know, background in literature, you know. But then we cut to the scene where they're hoofing it across the field in the black of darkness, and then there's the explosions that are silhouetting him, and it's beautiful. That could be a poster,
I love
you know.
It. Yeah, I really love it. Then we get to the rally point. Well, where there's all these like airplane wreckage.
Yeah.
And hundreds of dudes.
There are. They said that a plane crashed here, and like guys just started showing up, and then there will be, you know, another company that shows up, and a captain will come and like grab a couple of the guys and go off on a mission. But it's kind of this own little makeshift like soldier, you know, camp out, you know, ish sort of thing.
It's a rally point.
Yeah, basically. Is that what Veerville is? Is that what this is?
I think this is just outside there.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. But so they go and they get to talking about. They talked to this lieutenant that was piloting this plane that had crashed there, and I guess he was supposed to be flying some general. And what had happened was they wanted to ensure that the general would be safe, and so they put a couple of like steel plates up under his seat in the airplane, and they didn't tell the pilot. And so like
no, they put the steel plates on the floor. The steel plates are the size of the Jeep.
Oh shit! Yeah.
A couple of steel plates under his seat wouldn't have had the effect.
Right. Jeez Louise. Yeah.
And he had 22 soldiers on that plane too.
Right.
A general in his Jeep and 2 giant steel plates.
Right. And so he said that controlling the airplane was an impossibility at that point. And he said they crashed like a meteor, fell from the sky. The general died on impact. He said that he walked away pretty much unscathed.
His co-pilot was decapitated, and all 22 of the soldiers that were in the back died.
Right. And so, in the meantime, we have Mellish, and you can see where they have all these like Nazi POWs that are being marched through, and he's sitting there holding up his little Star of David and showing them that he's a Jew, you know, and all this stuff. It's kind of a nice little scene, you know.
he's even saying "I'm a Jew" in German.
In German, yeah. Mm-hmm. And so they go through. He says, "You might check through these dog tags that we pulled off of these dead soldiers, and see if you can find Private Ryan in there. And if so, then you know what happened to your boy, you know." And so they go through. This is one scene that really bothers me, man, when I'm like watching it. And it's kind of subtle, but
for me, it does a really good job of showing how desensitized soldiers get when they've been through some shit.
Like long term, yeah.
And they're still in this shit.
Right. Yeah. They go through this bag and they're looking through. And they're like, "Well, I bet I can find them before you do." And so they start going through, and it starts turning into a game. And they're sitting there and laughing and cutting up and joking about it. And Jackson, he's like, "Oh, I found him," you know. And they're like, "You can't even read," you know. He's like mispronouncing this name, you know, and all this shit. And
yeah, the name on the dog tag is like Rien.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
but, even Captain Miller is like kind of standing behind him with a few of them in his hand. He's laughing at their jokes.
Right. Yeah.
And shit. But our boy Wade, the medic, he sees because like 101st is like filing in.
Right.
And they're all looking at these 3 guys playing with these dog tags like it's a game, and they have like hundreds of dog tags.
Yeah.
Like in this bag. So they're playing with dead soldiers. The last bit we have of them, and like as they're yelling out names and shit too, the guys that are walking around like know probably some of these guys.
Right.
So they don't say anything, but Wade does.
Yeah. The messed up part is being one of those guys that walks by. Yo, if I die tomorrow, are these guys gonna be sitting here basically playing poker with my dog tag? You know, like it's fucked up to think about, you know.
Well, imagine like Private Burns is walking and they're like, "Who's this fuck Chandler?"
Right.
You know, you're like, that's my like he's like my brother.
He's my boy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, Wade intervenes. He's like, "Dude, the entire battalion is walking by."
He says all the airborne is listening.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And that's whenever Captain Miller's like, "Yeah, this is kind of fucked up." And
he starts losing his shit.
Yeah, he does. He throws down the dog tag. He's like, "He's not here," and he just starts yelling. He's like, "Let's just yell and see if we can find him," you know.
Yeah, he's like Hansel and Gretel. So he just yells out, "Private Ryan, Private James Ryan." He's just yelling his name. He's like, "Let me ask these local people. Oh, do you know Private James Ryan? Nah, I'm good out of here."
Parlez-vous, Ryan? No, okay, mercy. Yeah.
Yeah, he's just like losing his shit. Like, this is pointless. We're never gonna find this dude.
Yeah.
And then finally, someone that's marching overhears Captain Miller saying the name, and he's like, "Hey," he says to another soldier, like, "Didn't so-and-so hang out with Ryan?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, let me go grab him." And they go and grab this guy, and he's completely deaf.
Right.
Because of
explosion right by his ear. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, James Francis, right? Yeah. So they wind up, the guy can't hear shit. They have to, like, write down a note. Write down, like, James Francis Ryan, ? Do you know him, ? You know. And he's like, "Yeah, I know him. He's he went out to Rommel is the name of the place. Apparently, there was a group of guys that a captain had come by and grabbed him up, and they're supposed to defend this bridge out in Rommel, and Ryan went with them. And so they're like, all right, well, let's go out there then.
It's the first time we know, like, a destination.
Yeah. They're just drawing straws here at this point. They have no idea anything about this dude, you know?
Yeah, well, this is the first time they have at least somewhere to go. The rest of the time, they've been just walking around and being like, hey, you know Ryan?
Right. Yeah. Basically.
Yeah, now they at least have a town that they can go to, and hopefully he's there.
Try to figure something out. They have a lead, you know? So
right.
Yeah. Then we get to... So they look at a map, and they start planning out their destination, or their path they're going to take to Rommel, and that's when the other guys start to notice that Captain Miller has the shakes in his hand, you know? And so they all kind of stop and just stare at it for a second. He's like, all right, let's just go. And they make it to this old, like, bombed out, abandoned radar tower, and they notice that there's a bunch of soldiers that are dead there. And so they can only assume that there's a group of insurgents that are camped up in that radar tower just waiting for people to come by so they can smoke them, you know. And that's whenever Reiben goes through and he's like, hey, I got an idea. We can go around this way, completely go past this radar tower, and we don't have to worry about it. And that's whenever, you know... Captain Miller's like, no, we gotta take out. What, we're just gonna wait for the next guys to come by, and then we can let them get killed by these Germans. He's like, we gotta put a stop to this, you know. And so everybody is pretty much unanimously like, I don't think this is a good idea. We have a mission that we're trying to complete, and it doesn't include this radar tower. And he's like, our objective is to win the war, so we're gonna do this thing. And
even like Sergeant Horvath is like, I don't think we should do this, sir.
Yeah.
And Captain Miller's like, why don't you shut up?
Well, that was... So he starts planning out, there's guys that are going to go up the left, guys to the right, and guys to the middle. And he's like, maybe I should go up the middle, sir. And he's like, the way you run, I don't think so. He's like, maybe I should go left, sir. He's like, maybe you should shut up. Yeah. It's pretty funny.
Well, it's funny, but it's out of character for Captain Miller.
Yeah.
And I really love the fact that as awesome as Captain Miller is in this movie, they still show us his flaws.
They do. And I think he wasn't accustomed to everybody unanimously objecting to what he had to say and like trying to go against it, you know. And I think that's whenever it started to piss him off, you know.
Well, and whenever they started this mission, however long they've been on this mission to find Ryan, you know, let's say 3 days or so now, they've been bitching the whole time about it.
Right.
So he's just tired of hearing it.
She shut up. Yeah, exactly. So... all the guys get divvied out into their separate spots, but Wade takes the left side, although he tells Upham to stay behind. Basically, he wants to keep him out of the line of fire because they're going to need a translator, most likely, and this guy is not going to help him that much anyway. Not very combat savvy. And so they wind up. We don't really even get to see what happens all that much.
Yeah, we kind of do.
A little bit, because Upham has a scope he's looking through.
Yeah, he's watching, and so Captain Miller makes it look really easy, by the way. He just, like, runs up the side of this hill into oncoming machine gun fire.
Right.
Like, the rounds are all hitting right around him.
Shit. Yeah.
Yeah. He finds, like, a bunker, like, we call it defilate. So he gets defilated, and chucks grenade. The German catches it, throws it back.
Starts throwing them back. It's
Yeah.
fucked up.
And they play catch with these grenades a couple of times until finally... Captain Miller, and I don't remember which soldier was with him.
I don't know.
But
doesn't matter.
But yeah, Captain Miller and whatever soldier was with him, they just start chucking grenades, like as many as they can.
Right.
Until they blow up the bunker.
Right.
And it looked like pretty uneventful. It looked like everything went really smoothly. And then
all things considered, it kind of did, but yeah.
Yeah, and then we cut to Wade's down.
Yeah. They kill all the Nazis, but Wade's been tagged. Yeah. This is the scene. It gets me fucked up, bro. I can't watch this scene in this movie without just like weeping for this dude, you know. It gets me, man. But So they're going through. They call Upham to go up there, and basically they tell him to bring all the packs and everything because Wade got hit. And so they're basically trying to like stop the bleeding, keep it clean, and he's having him check for like an exit wound and stuff like that. And of course, in the meantime, Wade's like, you know, gyrating and twitching and having all sort of like nerve misfirings and stuff like that, you know. And basically, it's Upham gets the idea. He's like, tell us how we can heal you. Tell us what we have to do. You're the medic, you know. And basically, Wade's like, can I have more morphine? That's when you know.
Well, no. He asked him. Wade is he's walking the guys through how to take care of him.
Yeah.
So he's like, "Do I have a spinal injury?"
Right.
So Captain Miller, like, they rolled him to the side. They check. He's like, "No, there's an exit wound, but it didn't hit your spine."
Right.
And he's like, "Okay, flip me back over. Where's the biggest hole?" And they're like, "It's over here on your right side." So he's like, "Okay, where is it? Show me where it is." And he puts his fingers in there.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh God, it's my liver."
Mm-hmm.
So now he knows his liver's been hit, and there's a bunch of internal damage going on, and now he knows he's fucked.
Right. Yeah.
And that's when Open says, "What can we do?" And he says,
I need more morphine. Yeah.
I could use some morphine.
And I don't think that they had grasped the idea that basically Wade was beyond helping at that point until he asked for more morphine. Because you can see the look in their faces is like, oh, shit, you know, he's done, you know.
Yeah.
He just wants to die not in pain, you know.
Yeah. So I think they give him 2 more doses. So he got 3 doses total. And you could tell it worked. He felt a little better.
Right.
Because he stopped the shaking and the breathing hard.
He wasn't yelling as much, yeah. Stuff like that.
Just kind of laid back and left us.
Called out for Mama, which made me super sad. But yeah. So
there's another German like up there still.
Yeah, he's not dead. And so who was it that was it Reiben that went up there, just started beating the fuck out of this dude. And so Fish, Reiben, and Jackson basically all have him at gunpoint, and they're about to execute this dude on the spot. And that's whenever Captain Miller intervenes. He's like, no, before he does that, he's going to dig a grave for Wade. And this whole time, that's whenever Upham's like, this is messed up, dude. We can't just execute this guy. And he's like, oh, okay, well, you can help him dig the hole, you know. And we finally see Captain Miller, like, basically hit his emotional breaking point, if you will. Just starts losing it. Starts crying and stuff. And cut to a little bit later, and Upham and the Nazi are basically, he's like, give him a cigarette and stuff like that. And that's whenever the boys show up, and they're ready to get down with this dude. He
starts talking about Betty Boop.
Yeah.
What a dish.
Yeah, he's trying to appeal to their patriotism, you know, and
Betty Grable, nice cans.
Nice cans, yeah. He starts singing what he can of the national anthem.
Yeah, I think it says, "Oh, say, can you see by see?"
Oh, he just says, "Oh, say, can you see?" Yeah.
Yeah. He just says, "Oh, say, can you see?" like 3 times.
Yeah. And then finally says, "Fuck Hitler," and they're like, "I don't care what you say, you're still going in that hole," you know. But that's whenever basically Corporal Upham tries to make an appeal and say that we can't just execute this guy, that this is messed up. And Captain Miller actually sees it his way, and he's like, no, we can't do this. And so he tells him to turn around and walk like
1,000 paces.
1,000 paces, yeah. And they never want to see him again, basically. And
he's supposed to turn himself into the first Allied forces that he finds.
Yeah, I'm sure he's going to do that. Mm-hmm. There's the Americans. I'll turn myself in. So, what is it here?
Reiben wants to quit.
Reiben is pissed. Reiben and his boys are all pissed.
But Reiben's ready to fucking quit. He's like, I don't give a shit. If you court-martial me or not, I'm out of here.
Yeah, he's going to walk.
I'm done with this mission.
Mm-hmm. And Reiben starts like yelling at the captain about how, you know, we're just gonna tell Mama Ryan that, you know, her boys are just, or that her son's life is just a little bit more important than ours, you know, and all this other crap. And that's whenever Horvath tells him to fall in, and he's like, "Fuck you, dude! What are you gonna do?" And Horvath actually pulls a gun on him at one point. He's like, "I'm just gonna shoot you right here if you're not gonna do what you're told." And so everything starts going crazy. At one point, Fish rolls up to him. He's like, "Ryan's dead. I got a feeling about this, that this dude isn't even alive anymore." And Captain Miller gets sick of it, and he starts to give his backstory about what he did in the civilian world. It's a pretty great scene, and Tom Hanks rocks it. So,
yeah, he was a school teacher.
Mm-hmm.
He taught English composition in high school.
Right.
He was from Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And back home, when people asked him what he did, they would say, "That makes sense."
Yeah.
But here, it didn't make much sense.
Right.
And how he felt like he's a different man.
Mm-hmm.
And for every man he kills, he feels a little less himself.
Right.
And a little farther from home. And
Right.
he's wondered if he's changed so much since he's been gone, if his wife would even recognize him when he gets home.
Right. And how he could explain to her days like today, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
My takeaway from this, kind of, sort of, is he didn't not kill that Nazi for that Nazi's own benefit. He just didn't kill him because he didn't want to feel the way that he would feel after he killed him, you know? Like, it was my take on it.
No,
Like,
it's 100%. I think he pretty much tells us that.
yeah.
You know, by letting that guy go, you know, he might have just saved himself a little bit.
Right. A piece of his soul was maintained. Yeah.
Right. Small piece, but a piece nonetheless.
Right. Yeah. He wasn't in any immediate danger. He didn't have to kill that guy, so he would really rather not, you know. And so basically he tells Ryman, he's like, "I don't know anything about Ryan." He's like, "But if it gets me a little bit closer to home, then I'm gonna go save his ass." He's like,
Yeah,
"You can take the walk if you want, you know."
Yeah, if you want to leave, fine, no problem. I'll do the paperwork for you.
Yeah. And that's whenever he goes up there to bury Wade, and Ryman decides he's going to join him. It's a pretty great little scene. I love it.
It's powerful shit.
It is. It's deep. Deep, right in the feels, man. So we cut to a little bit later, and apparently these guys are all in a field, and there's like this German gun truck that's going through, and so they all get down, whatever.
It's called a half track.
A half track. There you go.
Where the wheels on the front are traditional like truck tires, and the back half of the vehicle is like a tank.
A little best of both worlds sort of thing, huh?
Yeah, they're shitty.
Oh, are they?
Yeah. Could you imagine trying to turn one?
Oh, yeah, it'd be a pain in the dick. You know, I'm
Yeah.
not going to lie about that.
If they were best of both worlds, you'd still see them.
Right. That would still be a thing. So this half track is driving through this field, and they're all like ducking down or whatever. They're going to wait.
It's really close to them.
Really close. All of a sudden blows up.
Yeah, awesome.
Well, that worked out.
And they're like, "Who's doing the shooting?"
Right. And it blew up not because it was shitty, but because somebody else was there. So
Yeah. And they smartly, though, know that the guys are about to start pouring out of the vehicle. So they prepare themselves for that and unload on them.
Yep. They do.
Pretty much kill all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then from the grass, we hear 101st, we're coming out.
Yeah. Sure enough. And then who do we see with a bazooka on his shoulder?
Fucking Ryan.
Freaking Ryan, yeah.
He's just like grinning from ear to ear because he just nuked this German truck.
Yeah, he's feeling great about himself.
Yeah.
And so he goes through, they take him back to this Rommel, this little city that's basically a big old pile of bricks out in the middle of nowhere with this bridge on it.
But there's a very important bridge.
Yeah.
Did they only say two bridges pretty much left, huh?
Yeah. Well, they say that the Army Air Corps at the time has taken out all these other bridges, and there's only these two bridges left, and so this basically is like one half of a very important couple of bridges, you know.
Right.
Do they say what the strategic importance is, or is it just supply lines, or what exactly?
Well, if you don't have a bridge, you can't get over the other side.
Yeah.
But the problem is they don't want Germans to come over either.
Right.
So that's why they took out all those other bridges.
Mm-hmm.
And they left the 2 bridges because so that the U.S. when they get there, they could push their tanks across.
Right.
But they want to stop the Germans from getting their tanks over.
Right. Yeah. I got you. Anyway, we find out that the commanding officer is dead. There's this guy, I think he was a corporal, that's like running the shit, basically. Yeah. So they're really screwed.
That's what he says. He says, "Where's your commander?" He goes, "Well, he was Captain Jenkins, but the best we can muster up now is a corporal."
Right. And so it's like maybe this corporal and like 5 other dudes that are supposed to defend this major strategic stronghold, you know. And so Captain Miller tells Ryan about his brothers and that he has a one-way ticket home. And Private Ryan does not want to go home. He says, you know, these are the only brothers I got left, and I'm not going to leave them here to fight this huge battle, you know, because they have reason to believe that there's an attack coming, basically, with these tanks or whatever. He said,
"Well, they know the one's coming. They just killed a recon vehicle."
Right. He said, "I'm not going to leave these guys here to fight it by themselves."
Yes, and fucking Ryben's like, "Hey, asshole! 2 of our guys have died looking for you."
Right.
And he looks to Captain Miller like, "Are you serious?" And Captain Miller's like, "Yep, it's true."
Yep. He tells Captain Miller, he's like, "Well, you can send a letter to my mom telling her that I basically stayed here to fight with the only brothers I have left." And that's whenever Captain Miller's like, "Dude, I'm about ready to go home and tell this dude to piss off." You know, he doesn't want to go. I'm not going to make him do anything. And that's when Sergeant Horvath is like, "You just talked to us about all the shitty shit that we've done this entire time." He said, "Maybe this is something good that we could do for once, you know." Mm-hmm. And he's like, "So you want to stay and basically help defend this bridge?" So that's what they do. They decide to. What did I do here?
They're gonna protect the bridge.
Right.
He talks about sticky bombs.
Mm-hmm. I love sticky bombs.
Is this composite be jammed into soldiers' standard issue GI socks? He calls them.
Right.
Covered with axle grease.
Yep.
And so we watched them make some of these.
It's straight out of the field manual.
Yeah. We're out of field manuals. They have this plan to direct all the German armor through this one like alleyway where the rubble makes it like bottleneck and all this different stuff. Mm-hmm. And they say the only way we can get them there is if we give them a rabbit to chase. Mm-hmm.
They want to try to cut off. Weren't there like 3 paths through to that bridge? Basically, they're trying to get this tank to go in there and then use sticky bombs to keep it from moving, so that it blocks off one of the pathways.
Yeah, they're gonna use. They said a 60-ton roadblock.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But they come up with this big plan. They put Jackson strategically in a tower. Mm-hmm. They give him another guy with their 30 machine gun.
Right.
A 30 caliber machine gun with 1,000 rounds.
Right.
And Fish and the corporal we met, they're gonna be a machine gun team. And Optim's gonna be in charge of ammunition and resupply.
Right.
And Ryan's not gonna be further than 2 feet away from Captain Miller.
Right. If shit goes down and they get pushed all the way back to that bridge, worst case scenario, they're gonna blow the bridge.
Yeah, they're gonna go. They identify a building as the Alamo.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, U.S. forces still do this. I know, at least in Army doctrine, we still, every time we're in a fight somewhere, we identify an Alamo.
Right. Henderson, that's the guy that Fish is with.
The new corporal we met?
Yeah, Henderson.
Okay.
But,
and
they do.
So they even have an engineer there that's like, well, Comp B is the one thing we have plenty of. I've rigged this bridge enough to blow it twice.
Right.
But tell whoever blows it at the Alamo, they got 30-second fuse to get the hell out of there.
Right.
So,
yep.
Then we get a little bit of quiet before the storm.
Mm-hmm. We do. This is another kind of nice scene. One thing, so I'm going to say this, because I know people are like, man, you know, there's certain movies that are just great, you know, like Black Hawk Down, which I actually do like Black Hawk Down and like the Mogadishu Mile, and I find all that stuff interesting. But I think that this movie, more so than a lot of other stuff, does a great job of getting into the characters' heads, and that's one of the reasons I really like it. I think that it makes... I've always said this, if I don't care about the characters in a movie, I don't care about what they're doing, you know? And so I think that with these guys, whenever they have a chance to breathe and to kind of open up and, you know, kind of give a little bit of their backstory and stuff, it makes me appreciate them that much more, you know? And so...
Yeah, we get to see... I mean, I feel you, and we get to really see that with, like, Oppen.
Right.
Because they're listening to...
I don't want to like that guy, but yeah.
I think her name is Mia Pia. I'm not even kidding.
I'll go with it. They said it. I didn't write it down or nothing.
I think it was like Mia Pia or something like
Mia
that.
Pia.
But they're listening to this album of hers, and Alpum can speak French, so he's telling the other soldiers, you know, what it means, and it's about heartbreak.
Right.
And how at the beginning of the song, and the way he's explaining it to it, like, you can tell, like, he's got some, like, compassion and stuff to him.
Right.
And, like, even Fish makes a joke about how, like, he's kind of attracted to Oppen right now.
Right.
Because of his description of the song. Sergeant Horvath was like, if they have plenty more songs like this, the Germans won't have to kill me. I'll just slit my own wrists.
Kill myself, yeah.
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 It's a really, like, sad song, I guess, about heartbreak, but, like, we get a chance to see those guys, like, talk. And then, we actually get to kind of meet Ryan for the first time, really. Mm-hmm. The only thing we've seen Ryan so far is his little speech about he's not leaving his guys.
Right.
But he gets to he's talking about how he can't see the faces of his brothers.
Yes.
And Captain Miller, you know, was like, you gotta think of it in context. Like, I think about my wife pruning the rose bushes or the garden or whatever.
Right.
And then Ryan tells us this hilarious story about his brothers and him.
I guess one of his brothers is gonna get with this really ugly chick in
she
the
hit every
farmhouse.
stick in the ugly tree on the way down.
Yeah. And so him and one of his other brothers went up to the loft in the farmhouse.
His brothers came and woke him up.
Yeah, that's what it was.
And they said they had a surprise for him.
Oh shit! Yeah. And
so when they go into the barn, go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. So they go up there and they're basically given this whole. I guess he's up there with this girl, like fumbling around with her bra or whatever. She's got her shirt over her head. One of his brothers says, "Don't do it. You know, you're a young boy," and all this other shit. You know. So anyway, like the chick freaks out. She takes off running, and she winds up hitting a post.
Yeah. Well, she still has her shirt up over her head, so
right.
She runs straight into a wall and knocks herself out.
Yeah. They said the other dude grabs like a shovel and starts like trying to come at him and stuff. He winds up hitting a kerosene lantern, almost burns the whole barn down. You know, all that shit. It's pretty funny. Yeah, apparently that was ad-lib by Matt Damon too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, pretty great.
Huh?
He's freestyling.
Yeah, it's not bad, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, and that was his brother's last day before he shipped off to basic training. Mm-hmm. And we also, while Oppen was talking about the music, Ryben was telling us a story about at his mother's store. Mm-hmm. And how he was helping Mrs. Whoever try on some type of gown. And he had her convinced, like, she's like a triple G or something like that, but he had her convinced that she was a D cup.
Right.
And so, like, she's putting this thing on, and he says her tits are just pouring out of this outfit of hers.
Right.
And that she notices that he's aroused by it. But she says, and this is the day before he leaves for basic training.
Right.
She goes, just when you're over there, son, just think of these.
Yeah, if you ever get scared, just think of these. Yeah.
And he said, yes, ma'am.
All right. Yep. It's pretty great.
So we got a chance to really like hear some backstory, you know, about a bunch of characters. One thing I did like a lot when Private Ryan was done telling his story about his brothers, he asked Captain Miller to talk about his wife pruning the garden, and he says, nope, right. I saved that one for just me.
Right. It's kind of nice.
Yeah.
Kind of poetic a little bit. Yeah, he doesn't expound on the wife at all. But all of a sudden they hear loud machinery going on, and they're like, oh shit, it's fucking go time. They kill the record. Everybody gets into their places, and that's whenever Reiben hops up in that little rabbit. That's gotta be some kind of funky German-made thing, because that is one ugly vehicle right there, man.
It's another half track.
Yeah. It's like a motorcycle, but it has tank tracks on the back of it. It's really stupid looking. But, so anyway, he basically is sent to go try to lure these guys to go down a certain pathway, you know.
He's the rabbit.
Right. We get the... basically, Jackson can see what all the enemy has. There's the 2 Tiger tanks, there's 2 Panzer tanks, and apparently 50 infantry or more that are on foot. And
for those of you who don't know, the Tiger tank was the baddest tank in World War II. It was superior to all other tanks.
Right. Agreed.
I mean, it's not not my assessment.
Right.
It's just
You're
facts.
making it up, yeah.
Yeah.
So they go through. At one point, they're actually trying to disable the tank. This is another scene where like shit's just going down, kind of like the beginning of the movie, but maybe not to that same extreme. But so we
Pretty
see
extreme.
It is extreme. There's some tension going on.
The ground is fucking shaking.
Yeah, it is.
Literally shaking. Like, we see these guys behind rubble and stuff like that, and like little pieces, like little rocks and stuff are like shaking down the face of the berm they're in and stuff.
Right. Turns out that one of the Tiger tanks actually, they see the first 2 Panzers go by and they're like, fuck, that didn't work. And then one of the Tiger tanks comes up and comes up the path that they wanted it to. And so they decide they're going to use the sticky bomb on the tracks, try to disable this thing. And the first guy goes to light up his sticky bomb, and I guess the fuse was wonky, and he gets blown up like fast, you know.
It's crazy too, because when I was watching it, like when it gets lit, I'm like, who is that? I'm trying to figure out who it is, but then I find out why they don't show us.
Yeah.
He's in the movie for 5 seconds before he's exploded.
They do use some other sticky bombs, and they actually work. The guys are feeling good about themselves. Then we get to where like the soldiers storm the tank. And they go up there, basically just stand on it and just open fire into this thing, which you can imagine. There's bullets ricocheting everywhere. There's nothing left in there alive, you know.
Well, then they could throw a grenade in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just to seal the deal, pretty much.
Yeah.
But then a 20 millimeter piece of artillery comes out that the Germans have, and just kills everybody that's standing on that tank.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Like, people explode when these 20 millimeters hit them.
Oh yeah, you can see dudes whenever one of the bodies falls, you can see there's no head on it, you know, and shit like that. It's bad, pretty bad.
One of the things I appreciate about this movie is they were not trying to hide how brutal war is.
No, not at all. This there was the budget, and it was the right time. Like movies that took place in like the 50s, you know. They really couldn't, like, at the time, there wasn't any way for them to be able to convey that sort of, you know, the actual brutality of it on screen, you know, just because society, like, filmmaking wasn't at that point, you know, there wasn't any way that you could do that and let it get into theaters or anything. But this was, like, the right time in history with the right technology and the right budget and everything where they could do this, you know, successfully. But, so... I said Jackson's tagging motherfuckers in my notes.
Some other soldiers threw like Molotovs on top of a Panzer tank.
They do, yeah.
Burn a bunch of dudes up.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the Panzers makes it to the tower.
It does. And
Jackson is just clipping fools, but
right.
Can't clip a Panzer.
Nope. It's not going to work. I wrote down Upham as a pussy. He's running around basically trying to distribute ammo to the best of his ability, but he is kind of a wimp. And at one point before the battle actually starts, they actually explain to him what FUBAR is. So that was, I guess, the end of his character arc.
FUBAR, by the way, for everybody listening, means fucked up beyond all recognition.
Yes, exactly. we get to see where Fish and Corporal Henson are in need of ammo desperately. At one point, they actually throw one of those like pineapple grenades with the handle on it into like the hole where those two are at. Because those guys, they're mobile, they're on their feet, and so they're running from spot to spot to spot, you know, just taking out guys wherever they can. And they wind up throwing the grenade back out there and blowing dudes up, you know. And so then we see where there's Nazis. They end up closing in on where Fish and Corporal Henderson are at. And there's a pretty great scene where they're like walking up the stairs real quietly or whatever. There's no bullets going off or anything like that. And so they just kind of like hear these little footsteps creeping up the stairs, and they just assume that that's where the guys are at, and they open fire, and then you hear this body hit the floor, which is great.
They thought they hit Upham.
Oh, there you go.
They weren't sure if it was.
Upham?
Yeah. They weren't sure if it was him or not, so they just went ahead and shot.
Fuck
then
it.
you hear like ammo hit the floor.
Right.
And a pool of blood like kind of pour in.
Right.
And they're just frozen right there, like they don't know what the fuck to do.
Right.
And then someone returns fire through the wall.
Mm-hmm. Henderson gets shot through the throat.
Mm-hmm.
And the scene gets me fucked up too, man.
Oh, this is the most. This is the scene like
brutal.
I have visions of this scene sometimes in my head.
Yeah.
Mellish is one-on-one, hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah. This Nazi comes storming in, and they're just fighting it out.
Mellish does such a good job.
He does. He holds his own for a while.
Well, he does a really good job of conveying the emotion you would be feeling in this kind of fight.
Right.
This literally is a life or death fight.
Yeah. Just scared and terrified and angry and, you know, everything. Yeah.
Yeah, this isn't a drunken bar fight. This is two grown men fighting for their lives.
Right. This is the part where I say I hate Upham, because I do, with a passion. He basically is running up there he was going to go there and bring them more ammo, and he can hear the struggle that's ensuing upstairs, and he just pussies out and like sits on the stairs in like a fetal position and just cries to himself. I hate that dude.
Yeah, he could have saved Mellish that day.
Easily, yeah. If he would have gone up the stairs, he would have got the drop on old dude that Mellish is fighting with. But at one point, Fish pulls out that Hitler Youth knife to try to stab the German, and the German overpowers him, and then like very slowly, just right through the ribs, into the heart. It is hard to watch, man.
It is.
Because I actually really like Mellish, so. But next we're followed up with a scene that I think is great, though. Whenever Sergeant Horvath, he like pops out of this spot, and a German's right there, and he goes to shoot the guy with like his 9mm or whatever his side piece is.
Well, he nukes a Panzer. He nukes a Panzer before that.
Oh yeah. He goes to shoot this guy, and his rifle misfires, and so so does the Germans. And so to try to distract him, because he's gonna try to pull out his handgun, and so he like takes his helmet off and throws it at the guy, and then the guy throws his helmet at him, and then he like pulls out his gun and winds up shooting and killing the guy, but he gets tagged in like the hip. In the same instance, you know, but it's a really funny scene to sit there and watch these dudes like mirror each other's actions, you know. So
then we see Open and let the Nazi walk away cleanly.
I'm sorry?
We go back to the house where Upham is, and
God.
The Nazi guy who just killed Mellish is leaving, and he just walks right past Upham.
Upham doesn't do shit to try to like stop this guy or anything. And at first, whenever I saw this movie when I was younger, I was like, why did he just walk by? And I was like, probably just because he didn't see him as a threat. You know, this guy's laying there crying, you know.
Right.
I wanted to freaking punch that dude, but
well, and Upham was armed.
Oh yeah, he's got more
and
bullets
this
than
German
anybody.
guy isn't, so he's just like, if he's gonna let me walk by, I'm just gonna walk by.
Right. Yeah. So this is about the time when Miller and Ryan they're like, we're out of ammo, I don't know what to do, and he has like these mortar rounds. He's like, here, I'll show you how these work. And so they start like just banging him on this metal plate, and then like just chucking him, you know, and killing people. It's awesome.
Yeah, they're just chucking him.
Yeah.
Miller's got a good arm, by the way.
Yeah, he does. Way
We
better
see
than
that a
mine.
lot in this movie.
Yeah, we do. So right as they're... Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, right as they're chucking these mortar rounds, sure enough, this tank comes right up behind him and damn near runs him over, you know?
Yeah.
It's
close
just
call.
like, oh, shit, you know?
Then they decide it's Alamo time.
In fact, Miller is about to hit the explosive, and his finger ends up getting shot. And so he doesn't have the opportunity to. There was... Sergeant Horvath. Even though he's shot, he comes and scoops up him off the stairs where he's crying there like a little bitch, and like takes him across the bridge for the Alamo. You know?
Yep.
I hate that dude.
Then Horvath gets shot again.
Mm-hmm.
This time looks like in the leg.
Right. It's right about that time that there's a tank blast, and so Captain Miller, he winds up losing the detonator, and so he's gonna basically... There's another moment where like his hearing is out and all that other shit.
Well,
you can see
it's all the consequence of the tank.
Yeah.
The tank hit the Alamo,
Right. Yeah.
and Miller was basically like leaning against the Alamo, so it like launched him, and he can't hear shit. He's dazed and confused,
Right.
and it gives us a moment of slow motion. Where he's like panning around looking at different people, and we can see Ryan is like basically in the fetal position, crying.
Horvath's laying there dead.
Yeah, Horvath is right next to him, dead. And then like he's kind of just you could tell like it's all sinking in on it to him, you know, like, oh, this is where I die, pretty much.
Right.
And then Raven comes and grabs him up.
Well, at one point, Corporal Upham is like in this impact crater, and you can see all these Germans that are like shooting off the side of this bridge and all this other shit. And so that's when Captain Miller... Go ahead.
He sees the Nazi from the machine gun bunker.
Yeah, that radar tower thing, yeah.
Yeah.
And he just lays there like a pussy, like he's really good at throughout this entire movie. And so anyway, Captain Miller says fuck it and decides he's going to stand up and try to go after that detonator because it got blasted whenever that tank shot the Alamo. And so he stands up, he starts walking toward it, and he gets tagged.
By the guy he let go.
Yeah, by the guy. He and I guess that's like Upham's little buddy, whatever. So sure enough, fucking Miller's leaned up against this wall, or maybe it's a tank or whatever, and you can see this tank just plowing toward him, you know. And this is a badass moment. Fucking Captain Miller's a badass because he takes out his 9mm and just starts shooting this fucking tank, you know, while it's like bearing down on him.
Yeah,
it is great.
He shoots it like 5 or 6 times, and on the 6th time it blows up.
I saw that in the theater. I was like, "What the fuck did he just hit?" You know. And then you look and go ahead.
They should definitely fix that.
Right? Yeah, that's a Death Star type of issue going on with this tank. You know.
But we reveal it was actual P-51 tank killers.
Yeah.
That showed up.
They did. And they blow up that tank.
And then Upham hops out of his hole, and he's all brave all of a sudden.
Jeez, I can't stand that dude. And
like, he captures a whole squad of Nazis by himself.
I'd have just mowed them all down, but he doesn't.
And then he kills the guy that shot Captain Miller because the Nazi is like, Upham, and he just shoots him.
Are we supposed to like Upham now because he shot that dude? Because seriously, I'm still in the camp of fuck Upham, but whatever.
No, he only had courage because the American forces showed up.
Yeah, so he's a big pussy, in other words. So Captain Miller's dying. He actually pulls Private Ryan in to talk to him. He says, James, earn this, that sort of thing. And we basically close in on where we see where Captain Miller has passed away. And finally, for the first time, it zooms in on his hand, and it's no longer shaking. It's kind of sad, but it's a nice little Spielberg type moment, And then Robin grabs his letter to his wife. And then we see where General Marshall has written a letter to Ryan's mom. And basically told her that he's sorry about the other 3 boys. You know, you still got the one left, and they fought bravely, and we're glad that we could get them home to you. And it sucks, but it is what it is. And then he like quotes some of the Bixby letter in his letter. And then basically we cut to modern day.
Yeah,
again.
that's when we find out the old guy from the beginning of the movie is Ryan.
Yeah.
Because you don't know who he is in the beginning of the movie.
No idea.
Yeah, we don't know whose grave he's at.
Nope.
But once we find out that's Ryan, we're pretty sure we know whose grave he's at. And in fact,
Right.
it is Captain Miller's grave. Mm-hmm. And his wife walks over to him, and he asks her if he lived a good life.
Yeah. I tried to live my life the best I could, is what he tells Captain Miller's little headstone.
Yeah.
And then he talks to his wife. He said, "Tell me I'm a good man," you know. She's
Yeah.
like, "You're a good man." And then she walks off.
Well, she doesn't know fucking what to say.
No, what are you going to say, you know?
And I actually like the fact that it's so simple. Mm-hmm. Like, they didn't try to explain to us, like, oh, no, you take care of your 3 children and your 9 grandchildren, and you own a family business, and you go to church every Sunday, and they don't do
Right.
any of that.
Mm-mm.
You know, they just, you're a good man.
Yep. That's all you need, you know? At the end of the day, I guess that's kind of the thing, you know, is that you don't have to do anything extraordinary to be good, you know? Just live your life and don't try to hurt people, you know? It's as good as anybody could ask, you know? But
I think about, like, if I would have been Private Ryan, and this dude, Captain Miller, brought 7 other guys with him that pretty much almost all of them died, except for, I think, Rabin.
Yeah, Rabin
and Open. Yeah, that's it. Everybody else died. For me. And he looked at me and said, "Earn this." Man, that's pretty powerful shit.
That's a lot to put on somebody, you know?
Yeah. So the movie bookends with that same American flag shot that we saw at the beginning of the movie.
Oh yeah, Ryan salutes Captain Miller, his grave.
Oh, that's true.
That's it, yeah. Then the flag. And that's the movie.
Yep.
What was your take on Saving Private Ryan, Mike?
I love this movie. And I say that about other movies, like, you know, and I'm kind of laughing, a little chuckling.
Armageddon.
Yeah. That's more of a guilty pleasure, but this movie is an incredible movie.
It is.
From the beginning to the end, it's action-packed. The times in the movie where it's not, and it's just, you know, a couple soldiers BSing, like, it's really good storytelling.
Yeah. And it's great, because soldiers do a lot of BSing, too, so it's nice to see that. So
There's one scene in there where Rabin and, like, the squad is getting briefed from Sergeant Horvath, and Sergeant Horvath is like, "You'll be waving an American flag with a piece of cheese shoved up your ass." And, you know, Private Rabin looks at Sergeant Horvath and was like, "I thought you liked it in the ass."
He's like, "What'd you say?" He's like, "I thought you liked it in that." Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great.
In those kind of, like, yeah, in garrison, you know, you mind your manners a little bit more. But when you're out there in those kind of situations, like, you get away with talking shit to your superior like that a little bit.
Right.
Like, it's all in fun. It's like we know we love each other. We're family.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love this movie, man.
It's great.
I was watching this movie. I was actually holding Will the whole time I was watching this movie. I had him sitting up on my lap, like, watching the movie with me.
I got you. It's good. I think I got a picture of that, actually.
Do you?
My wife, yeah.
So I really love this movie. I don't know what to say.
Go ahead.
Didn't Tom Hanks got an Oscar for this, didn't he?
Pretty sure. It seems appropriate.
I know Saving Private Ryan and A Thin Red Line.
Oh, that was
Like,
Woody Harrelson. Yeah. It was in that movie.
Didn't those two, like, compete that year in the Oscars?
They might have. I don't even think I've seen A Thin Red Line. I heard it wasn't near as good.
It's not. But I don't know. I love this movie. I don't know what to say about it. Go for it. What do you got?
Yeah. Well, so this isn't, in my opinion, the best war movie ever. Not just the best war movie ever, but it's one of my favorite movies of all time. Like, there's this, and then there's every other war movie, in my opinion. Like, there's been some great ones that have come out in recent years. Like, I really like American Sniper, and, like, Letters from Iwo Jima is fantastic. And
Hacksaw Ridge is
Hacksaw
great.
Ridge is really good. None of them hold a candle to this movie, though.
No.
This one's just fantastic on all fronts. And go Spielberg, you know. That's all I got to say. Dude's the man.
We'll stay on Team Spielberg.
Yup. Until we get to, I don't know. I'll be hard pressed to think of a. Well, I guess he did 1941. I guess that was a crap movie. But
I don't know if I've ever seen that.
yeah, it had like John Belushi and stuff in it. But
So we talked about this movie for nearly 2 hours.
Nearly.
It is a 2 hour and 50-minute long movie.
yeah,
And to skip some of that shit would feel like we're doing it unjustly.
right. Yeah, you really need to watch it. It's just sort of an experience, you know. Story's great, acting's great, characters are awesome, action's fantastic. There's nothing wrong with this movie at all, in my opinion.
In some of our podcasts, I feel like we do a good enough job telling you the story, and the movie's so terrible, you don't really need to see the movie.
Right.
But we...
Boston Space.
As much as we talked about this film, we still didn't do it any justice.
Nope, we didn't.
You gotta see it. If you haven't seen it. If you have seen it, watch it again.
Mm-hmm.
You probably haven't seen it in a while, so watch it again.
Yeah, don't just sit back and listen to our show and be like, that's good enough. That's not good enough.
No one's doing that.
No. But in any event, what you been watching this week, Miguel?
Oh, shit. I don't think I've been watching much of anything. Yeah, I really haven't been watching much of anything this week, man.
I mean...
I had a full house all weekend, so...
Yeah, you did. We did, of course, the Big Brother thing.
Yeah.
You know, typical. I have been trying to do a little bit of a recap on my Better Call Saul, because it's supposed to start back up soon. However, Amazon Prime had their Prime Day. I think it was like Monday.
I already know what you're about to tell me.
Yeah, you do.
You got everything of Star Trek ever?
Every Star Trek show ever put on DVD is in my possession now. So we might be having a third baby soon. I don't know. It's a panty dropper. But
Oh, boy.
But so there's that. Last night I went through and I got onto this Texas Chainsaw Massacre kick for some reason. And so I watched the first movie, and I gotta say it holds up pretty well, dude. It's thoroughly creepy in the areas where it should be. And then I watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, and that movie is just really weird and obnoxious. So skip the first one, or the second one, go with the first.
I have a little story about Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
All right.
So, do you remember when they remade it?
Yeah, with Jessica Biel and all that shit.
Yeah. So I watched the first one night because I had them both on DVD. So I watched the first one, and then I watched it again with director's commentator.
Yeah.
Over the top of it, and then I watched the second one or the remake
Right.
and listened to that again with. So I watched it 4 times. I watched 4 movies that night, and for some reason I was totally like enthralled with it.
Yeah.
But the funniest thing I thought about it, watching it with director's cut with the director commentary over the top of the original one, is that it's not based on a true story at all. They just said that to generate
the hype train
publicity.
for it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They openly said like, "Oh no, we never we just threw that out there."
You could make the argument that I guess it's all like loosely based on Ed Gein, that dude that was the killer that takes, but that was it, you know.
Right.
Basically. Anyway, so I think that so me and Mike did a little discussion. The last movie, not counting Back to the Future, because that was a different sort of deal. The last movie we picked was my pick, which was Who Framed Roger Rabbit. So, Mike, the ball is in his court this week. Why don't you tell us about it?
Well, we are sticking with our theme of Military Movie Month.
Yeah.
There's no way that we can do this month without watching Full Metal Jacket.
Full Metal Jacket. All right.
I will say, I was thinking about We Were Soldiers, but that actually comes up in a couple years as a #1 movie, so we're not going to do that one. But Full Metal Jacket's a classic. Must watch.
We should do the first half of Full Metal Jacket and then turn it off. Because I think I've seen the second half of that movie once, but
you're gonna watch it again, buddy.
I guess so. Anytime I watch Full Metal Jacket, I just will watch the first half and be like, I'm good. That's pretty much it. But so we got that to look forward to. Stanley Kubrick getting his game on. That's our first Kubrick movie, actually, I think.
Nice.
So yeah, another one off the list. But in any event, if you would like to get in contact with us, you can always email us at cheesymovie@yahoo.com. Our Facebook page is Casino Royale with Cheese, all separate words. Twitter, Casino Royale WCH. YouTube handle is Casino Royale W Cheese, all one word. Instagram, Casino Royale W Cheese, all one word. And wherever you find your podcast, you can search for us on there at Casino Royale W Cheese. Make sure you join us for our continuation of Military Movie Month, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
I'll be back.